Hi, my name is Roy. Nope. Hi, welcome to The Perspective, a place where we discuss faith, culture, and life. My name is Roy.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Yasha.
And I'm Gustavo.
Today we're going to be talking about Christianity and dating, and we've got 4 questions that we're going to be discussing.
What kind of person do you think you would have to be before you get into a relationship?
So I'm a pastor, and there's a Bible verse that comes to my mind. It's found in Proverbs 19, verse 14, and it says, "A prudent wife is from the Lord." And so there's kind of this interesting Bible concept here where it says, if you want a wife, if a man wants a wife, then he should go to the Lord. And I think the natural tendency for guys is to kind of go to the woman first.
Hi, can I have directions?
Yeah, where to?
Your heart?
And so you kind of side or shortcut the whole God element. Also from the female's perspective, if you really want a man, then the concept here is to give yourself to the Lord so he can give you away. And I think too many times we kind of get caught up in this idea of the game or the hunt. And in the Bible, there are a few hunters. None of them are kind of spoken about in a positive light in the Bible. And so, yeah, just that idea of going to God first before going to the other person.
The first time I looked at this question, nothing could come to my mind. I don't know what kind of person I would need to be, you know, because when you're in a relationship, you don't know what characteristics you need to portray or what people need to do to make you happy, you know?
Yeah, I guess with asking what kind of person do you need to be, I think the best answer personally for me is to be yourself. I think a lot of the times we're trying to, I guess, determine our identity and who we are, and sometimes we set that in someone else by being in a relationship with someone, and we think that that's how we find ourselves. But I think when you're yourself, then I think that's the kind of person that you need to be in your lane and fulfilling your purpose.
I have a few mates as well who kind of when they're trying to find a girlfriend, so they try to be someone different. So they try to be louder or more talkative when they're normally really quiet.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I mean, it's happened with me as well. Normally when you try to be different, a different person. But I think the best advice is to be just yourself. Don't be wanting to find someone or wanting to date. Just
On the lookout.
just be yourself and don't even look for it, because it will come. It will eventually come.
Yeah.
When I'm interested in a guy, I tend to be more quiet, you know, and shy, and what I think in my head is that guys like that kind of, you know, subdued woman, and I'm not like that. So when I become myself, they're just
You're like,
okay,
surprise!
next.
But wouldn't you rather want someone who actually likes you for you rather than a subdued version of you?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I'm also dramatic, so I don't know how long I would have lasted if the person who I'm dating now I'm putting it out there, wasn't into me for that reason. You know, now I have to pretend and wear a mask all the time just to maintain a relationship. I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah. I think there's some things that you can do in terms of preparation as well, in terms of there are some practical things. I think the most important thing is, as I mentioned before, giving your life to God first. There's something about really connecting with God and knowing what your life direction is. And I think a lot of times people aren't sure what their life direction is, and so when it comes to a life partner, that comes out of loneliness as opposed to a purposeful relationship. And so I've seen so many couples where they get together initially and then they head in different directions later on, and it really affects them as a couple and as a family later on. And so just really that idea of connecting with God, understanding where you're heading in your life, and then meeting somebody that's heading in the same direction. I think that it just helps a lot in the future. Yeah.
True. Because I guess it makes sense. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know the person is right for you?
Yeah.
In the direction that you're going.
Yeah.
Both of you would have to know where you're going and if those paths actually match.
Yeah. I see it time and time again where someone decides, I want to go into ministry, and then the other partner is like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
Or even if someone's really committed to the corporate world, where if someone is traveling all over the place 5 days a week and the other partner they didn't sign up for that. And so just understanding what you want out of life is something that's really important, and I find sometimes people prematurely jump into that relationship.
That's interesting because my parents got married really young. My mum was 19, which is like my age now. And like, so she didn't have like her degree or anything like that. So she didn't know anything, like what she wanted to do with her life.
Yeah.
And they're like still married today. So I
That's
guess
fair.
they're really
Interesting.
lucky because like I
Yeah.
never actually put that into perspective.
Well, I think
Perspective?
I think some people love each other so much that they're able to prioritize the relationship over anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that's ideal. Just sometimes that doesn't happen. But that's amazing.
Not
that your
over
parents-
God.
No,
But I guess it could be compatibility, like depending on like what your mom was looking for in a partner. So what do you guys look for?
Oh.
what characteristics?
Well, when I was trying to, when I found my person I'm with right now, so I'm taking what I normally would like look for in my future girlfriend was that first of all she had to believe in the same sort of belief that I had, so believe in God first of all. I didn't want to find someone who wasn't Christian first of all, because then we would kind of have different views in life or different sort of opinion as well. I kind of wanted someone who had the sort of same opinion, where we wouldn't have that clash together, especially with my parents or with my family, extended family who are majority are Christian. As a Hispanic, we normally are very religious. So majority of my family believe in God. So I would rather want someone coming to my family who kind of shared that same sort of thing with my family. Yeah.
That's interesting because a lot of people don't even consider family when it comes to like dating a particular person.
Yeah, well,
That's awesome.
I guess Hispanics or Latinos are very family
Yeah.
bonding sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, I guess my thing, I don't even know. What do I look for? Like everything's just gone from my head.
That's why you're single. Nah.
Minute now.
Nah, don't
Don't worry about it.
I'm just joking.
No, I was gonna relate it back to like the first thing, who I need to be before I'm dating. Like I don't want to change like who I am. So someone who's like fun, goofy, like I can banter with all the time. Like I would go out of my mind if a person was just like so serious. Oh, let's go on a date, or like let's go out to dinner. I want to like do something fun, you know?
Yeah.
So like just to keep that, youthfulness, I guess. Young forever.
Yeah. What about you, Pastor Boy?
So much pressure. I think something that I really look for now, or something that I value now, I should say, because I'm not looking for anything. Something that I value is emotional transparency. Ooh. And sometimes people are not emotionally transparent, and so you ask them, "Are you okay?" And they say, "Oh, I'm fine," but they're really upset at you.
I'm fine.
Really?
I'm fine.
And it's really difficult to gauge what's going on. And so I think in a relationship, emotional transparency is something that's really, really important. Something that I also value is emotional connectedness, or a commitment to emotional connectedness. And I think sometimes people get into a relationship out of whether they're seeking a status, or whether they're bored, or whether they're lonely, but there needs to be this commitment to emotional connectedness. Like, I want to be connected to you, I want to feel connected to you. And a lot of times people are very emotionally distant. They don't understand their own feelings, and they like being around you, but they don't want to be connected to you. And that's very counterproductive to a relationship. And so those are two things that I really
That's
value.
very common in like society now. People are always like having like physical relationships, but they lack like that emotional connection.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest one, because then that's a different level of vulnerability, because that there's a risk to it. I mean, everything has a risk. I guess for me, the characteristics that I look for in a partner, a main one
Tall,
for me,
dark, handsome. Blue eyes.
Wow. Maybe not that deep. But I think for me would be kindness. And I say that because I think if someone is a kind person in general, I think they're able to see beyond themselves. if that makes sense. So I just think I value kindness and someone who has like a sacrificial heart, because I know that with them, giving is an important aspect, because giving is also important to me. So if both people are giving to a relationship, then we're likely to both get what we need and what we want, because people are willing to be kind to each other. Especially in the rough times, which will happen in relationships. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I was in a relationship once.
This one time.
Where like the guy was like really kind, but he wasn't selfless, so he always like cared about his feelings more than he did mine. And like that's probably why I'm single now. But oops. I reckon selflessness or something, like where people want to just like, you're now like living for another person, like you constantly have that emotional connection and you have to like care for their mental health and like their aspects of being more than your own, or like equal to your own. Yeah.
Well, that's really good. What if the person you are dating or interested in is from a different faith than yourself? Maybe they're from a different denomination or a different worldview, or maybe they don't believe. Do you think it's good to move forward, or what should you do in that situation?
This is a hard one though. Like, I'm not gonna mention this person's name, but I do know someone who is dating this girl, and she's an atheist, but he's a Christian. And I can see it causes problems between the relationship, because my person I know wants to go to church, but then she doesn't want to go because she doesn't believe in God,
Right.
or he keeps the Sabbath, so he doesn't want to do certain things on the Sabbath, and then she's used to doing all those certain things as well, and then it causes problems within the relationship, and then I kind of see that, and then I find that it's very important to find someone with the same faith. Even the Bible mentions it too. We should find someone with that same sort of faith, so that those problems don't eventually come. But definitely I can see it's better to find someone with the same faith. Yeah.
That's interesting, because there's this girl, a woman at my church,
Yeah.
and she's the most lovely person I've ever met, and her husband's like Muslim.
Yeah.
So like it really depends on how it affects your own faith. So if it does come between like you going to church or like that kind of stuff, like I would step back and be like, whoa, like what's going on? Like why is this affecting stuff it shouldn't be? But if it's just fine and you're just chilling out, I guess it's,
Yeah, I think this is kind of a very challenging question in that there are going to be people who are watching this that are already in a relationship with someone who is from a different worldview or from a different faith. Or
break up.
Whoa,
You're done.
That was me. Watch me.
I've seen so many instances where people come to church with their partner, and then the pastor or the preacher from the front says, "Okay, break up with that person." And that's the appeal. If you want to respond to God, then stand up and come to the front and break that off.
Wait,
Who said that?
Yeah,
They
so it's
do
like
that.
there's kind of like this appeal that's made, and for me, even if being in a relationship with someone who is not from the same faith as you could potentially bring different challenges, and I think in a lot of ways it does, especially when you have children. Like because you're marrying the other person's family, and so if you have certain core values and it's different from the grandparents or even the parents, then it makes it quite challenging. Right. But the reality is that there are moments where people are already in serious relationships, so then what now?
Yeah.
And I think for me, practicing your Christianity in that circumstance is something that's incredibly, incredibly important, as opposed, like, it's worse to then say, okay, I'm going to end this relationship. And so I just think that being able to tackle that circumstance with, I guess, tact and carefulness and wisdom is quite important. Being prayerful about it is really important as well.
Yeah, I would say, I guess 3 things have come to mind throughout this discussion. One is that, like, I think when it comes to different faiths, it's also important to iterate the fact, or reiterate, what's the word? That word. I can't think right. The fact that compatibility is also important, because when we think about, like, even if you're in the same faith, compatibility is still just as important. You can both be Adventist but not be compatible enough to sustain your relationship. So I think people have to look at so many different factors when it comes to relationships and marriages, and I think also consider, like, how highly do you regard your faith and what that means to you, and what it means, I guess, in relation to your partner. Because I mean, there is also that verse of, like, if you marry someone who's not of the same faith as you could actually transform and change them. Not that you should go out and be a savior to everybody.
Sure.
Or they could change you.
Exactly. So it could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a perspective that needs to be explored by people, like, I guess, in churches. That doesn't mean because you share the same faith that you're going to last, I guess.
Absolutely. And, you know, you're talking about adding a degree of spirituality into that complex situation. But I think really asking that question, God, what do you want in my life? What do you want in my life? What do you want in our relationship is something that's incredibly, incredibly important. And ultimately, God knows the answer to that question. And so sometimes the answer is going to be stick with it and show that person the love of God. And then other times it will be, no, it's time to end this relationship. And so,
or the opposite. Like, I was in a relationship that one time with, like, a really Christian guy, and he was like, I thought it was like the bee's knees. And I was like praying about it, and I'm just like, me and my mum were praying about it. And we're just like, God, if you want me to be in this relationship, make it obvious. If you don't, make it obvious. And he made it obvious like 3 times. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, careful what you pray for.
Yeah.
When I first started seeing my fiance now.
Ooh, fiance.
Show us the ring.
Oh, I don't have the ring. She's got the ring. But when I met her, she wasn't Adventist. So probably those guys that are watching this video, maybe they're dating a girl who's not Adventist or a guy that's not Adventist. But the way I kind of showed her the Adventist way was by inviting her to my church. So she would go to a different denomination church, or a different sort of Christian church. But I sort of kind of made a little deal with her. So I said, you know, you come to my church and I'll go to your church, and then that way you kind of see mine. And so I went to her church first of all, and then saw what it was like, and then I invited her, so she came on a Sabbath, and then she saw that it was totally different to what she was sort of used to. But eventually, you know, she decided to keep on coming, and now she's kind of happy in the church. She's learned a lot more from the Bible as well. And she even got baptized as well within the church. So I mean, I reckon the best way, if you are dating someone who's not Adventist or someone who's totally a different faith, the best way is to show them about the God you believe in. So the type of faith that you have, they will see the difference between what your faith is and what theirs is like. And they will make that comparison.
I guess it all comes down to God's plan.
And that too, yeah.
God's plan.
Yeah.